Hello and welcome to Sobriety Sessions, where we live clean and live sober. My name is Molly and I'm an alcoholic, and today I'm going to share a little bit about my own story. I had my first taste of alcohol when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My dad would give me these small sweet sherries in the little sherry glasses. I think he only ever filled them about half full, thankfully, but it's one of the first memories that I have. It's one of the only memories I really have from before the age of about 8 or 9 years old. It was about 9 or 10 years old that I had my second real taste of alcohol. They gave me one of those, you remember those little stubby bottles of Stella that they used to sell? They gave me one of those, and that was the first time I felt the real effects of alcohol. I got the dizziness and the good kind of giddy feeling that alcohol gives you. It wasn't until about 14 after that I had my first real drink, my first real drunk experience. And it was, going down to the local park with friends at night, getting someone to buy you alcohol or stealing it out of your mum's and dad's drink cabinet and getting bladdered on the swings at the local park. And that kind of became a weekly thing with me and my friends. If it wasn't that, we were in the park smoking weed in the sunshine on a Saturday, or just those the normal things that you hear teenagers sort of hanging around and doing. I'm not going to delve too much into my childhood because that is a story for another day, but it was highly traumatic. I had a pretty awful childhood, and while my childhood and the people in it didn't physically put the drinks in my hand, the alcohol and drugs were something that I used to cope, to completely forget all of these horrible things that I had gone through. Alcohol was a big theme in my household growing up. My dad would drink quite frequently. He, as I mentioned, he had this cabinet on the wall that was so full of alcohol it could barely contain it. I would see him with a glass of whiskey in his hand after dinner most nights. My grandparents were alcoholics too. My mum was an alcoholic. I was constantly told that these people were alcoholics, but I was never given any context to that. And it's quite funny because I only ever saw my gran drunk once in my entire life. She was quite horrendously drunk, but I never even saw her drink outside of that incident. My mum, I would see her drink, but I would never see her drunk as well. I didn't see my mum drunk until I was an adult and an alcoholic myself, and when I went to visit her, we would drink together. And that became normal. When I would visit my mum, me and my mum would get drunk together. But when people tell you that your relatives are alcoholics, the only context I had for what an alcoholic looked like I'd seen on TV shows. So it was the typical dirty bum stumbling the streets, yelling at everyone, total degenerate, homeless, jobless, that kind of thing. And that wasn't my mum, and that wasn't my grandparents either. I didn't understand. Nobody sat me down and told me that alcoholism is a spectrum. It's the CEO at your job. It's your elderly next door neighbour. It's the young person that you walk past in the street every day. It's the school teachers, the professionals. Alcoholics are all around us and they're hiding in plain sight. So when I was told that my relatives were alcoholics, I didn't even really believe it because I couldn't see it. It wasn't this tangible thing. They didn't have a sign over the head saying that they were alcoholics. And throughout that childhood, my childhood, it was chaos. It was a constant theme of chaos and volatility and tension. So when I moved out of that home, that hostile environment, and moved into my own home, I was suddenly met with this all-encompassing calm. I remember the first night in my own flat, in my own space, not even a shared apartment. I had a little studio near Christchurch Park in Ipswich. It was absolutely beautiful. But it was so calm and it was so quiet. And nothing had ever been calm and quiet in my life. All I felt in this calm, solitary environment was anxiety. I was so anxious at being alone and being calm because growing up, the tension was always there. And when there wasn't tension, when there was calm, you didn't know what was around the corner. So, and even today, calm for me is a signal that something big and bad is about to happen at any moment. So there I am, 17, my own flat, absolutely living it up. I am drinking absolutely every weekend, probably every night if I can get away with it, because in my friendship group, there is always someone at the end of the phone who will be going out drinking, whatever night it is, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 365 days a year, there was always someone there. And everyone was doing it. It was totally normal. All my friends were out, so I had to be out. But the difference between me and my friends is that my friends would remember what happened the night before and I wouldn't. But that was fine because I didn't want to remember. The whole point of alcohol for me was that I didn't want to remember. I didn't want to face the sheer amount of trauma that I had gone through as a child and going into adulthood. Then I got into my early 20s. I moved away from Ipswich. I started living in Norwich. I met someone, again, party girl, out every single night, getting absolutely hammered. And then I got pregnant with this person that I had met in a pub randomly. We actually ended up getting married and being together for 8 years, but I didn't drink throughout my pregnancy, but as soon as I was able to, I picked up the alcohol again. And having a child brought this whole new layer of instability for me, because suddenly I was meant to be a responsible adult, 24 years old. It's time to grow up. You've got this tiny, tiny little human to look after who relies on you for everything. And being a parent and being responsible meant that I shouldn't have been going out and drinking, and I shouldn't have been drinking at home. I should have been sober, and my full focus should have been on my child. But I could not resist any opportunity to go out and drink. I would go out, if anyone was going out, whether it was my husband's friends, whether it was acquaintances, people I didn't really know, people from work. If they were going out to drink, I was there. I would make sure that I was there. And that's who I was. I was the drinker or the mum, and I had no personality of myself. And that's when I realised I had completely lost the person that I wanted to become when I was 10, 11, 12. I wanted to be a vet. I had huge dreams and aspirations. I could see myself being someone. Excuse me. And this, of course, put an absolutely massive strain on my relationship. Yet we stayed together. We had another child. And I was still, I was drinking at home. I was drinking when I was going out. I was making us constantly move house because I was never happy and I was never settled. Because I was never happy and settled as a child. Didn't know what settled was. This perfectly wonderful man that I married and had children with, it was all too normal for me. I'd never seen a normal relationship. So a normal, happy relationship was totally abnormal to me because relationships were meant to be drama and chaos and negative, constant fighting. It was meant to be volatile, just like my childhood was, full of volatility. Inevitably, we ended up divorcing after having our second child together, and then that's when I realised that my alcohol had become such a problem that it was impacting everyone around me. It impacted my ex-husband, it impacted my children. I'd blown their life apart for the sake of drinking. And it was at that point when I moved away with my children into my own place, separate from my husband, that I started keeping the alcohol a secret. I didn't have a social life anymore because my social life was going out with my husband's friends and anyone that I could scrabble together, but that was all gone. I left my job as well. I didn't have anything, I didn't have anyone. So I had myself, and when my children weren't there, and even when my children were there, I would order alcohol on delivery. I would walk down to the corner store and I'd buy alcohol and I would drink in secret at home. And I spent a lot of that time lying to people about it as well. I thought, I'm divorced, I'm grown up, I'm, big, strong, independent male, my dad had asked me about my drinking habits. My mum would ask me, my sister would ask me, no, I don't drink anymore. And then I'd go home and I would drink 2 bottles of wine and whatever else was lying around the house, vodka, gin, whatever I could get my hands on. So I was lying to myself. I was lying to absolutely everyone in my life. And because I was drinking more and because nobody saw it and because I thought I was doing a really good job of keeping it a secret, I drank more and I drank more. And in the end, I fell into an abusive relationship. And that is when I hit my rock bottom. I was at absolute rock bottom. I'm not going to go into the abusive relationship itself. That is a story for another day. But it pushed me right to my rock bottom. It was a long distance relationship. It was incredibly volatile. And thank God the pandemic came along, because the pandemic was what enabled me to become free of that relationship. And it was a wake-up call. It was the wake-up call that I needed. So here we are. It's 2019. We're hearing about the coronavirus spreading across the globe. I'm in this relationship with this horribly abusive man. I've blown up my entire life, and I even abandoned my children for a time for this man and for alcohol and for everything that comes with that. And then all of a sudden the world is locked down. I mentioned that this was a long distance relationship. Suddenly I realized that this man couldn't get to me anymore. All the airports were shut. Nobody could go anywhere. And I was finally free. I could finally free myself from this person who had threatened so many times to come over to the UK and hurt me and hurt my children. And that was a real turning point. That was when I realized, I am at that rock bottom. It's time for me to change. And I joined AA. I joined it virtually because that was the only option. And I went to 3 or 4 meetings, but because the end of my relationship had naturally lessened my drinking, the start of the pandemic had naturally lessened my ability to go out and get alcohol and drink so much, my drinking naturally kind of came to a stop, and I ended up feeling like a bit of a fraud going to these meetings because there were so many people who in my mind were worse off than I was. And I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. I felt like it was rubbing it in the face of everyone who'd had real struggles in their life, taking up a space in an AA meeting that somebody else could have. I now know that that's not the case. Anyone is welcome at AA, doesn't matter how big the group gets. But I left it. I left these groups and I met someone else who is absolutely amazing, incredibly supportive. I am so lucky that I met someone so wonderful, and we're still together today. And as a result of meeting someone calm and someone supportive and someone very settled, I naturally just stopped drinking altogether. I didn't need it anymore. Well, I say that. I did continue to kind of binge if there was a stressful moment in my life or if there was an occasion like birthdays and Christmases. But outside of that, I didn't drink at all. It was like a miracle. I finally had control over my alcohol intake, and I felt really, really empowered by that. And I felt like and I said to myself, you were never an alcoholic. You never needed AA. You just needed some stability and some control. But that wasn't the case. I got pregnant and I didn't drink through my pregnancy. I didn't actually start drinking again properly until my son was 2 years old, and that was last January. But I noticed that my drinking was starting up again. I was going from 1 glass a week, not even that, to 2 glasses of an evening, to a bottle a week, to 2 bottles a week, to 3, to 4, and it escalates and escalates. And before you know it, you're entirely out of control. And that's when I knew that I am an alcoholic. It doesn't matter whether I'm drinking or not. It doesn't matter how I feel comparing myself to other people who also struggle with alcohol. I know that I need help. I feel like I struggle with drink. I need to go back to these AA meetings and I need to finally get some real help. And it was kind of inevitable. I'd started experiencing pain right across, right where your liver sits, the most worrying sign that the alcohol is having an impact on your body, never mind the hangovers and the migraines that it was triggering. And it was starting to negatively impact my relationship again. I just knew I had to do it, and I did. And here I am, 5 weeks later. It's not easy. It's never going to be easy. Since I quit drinking, I've had to really face all of those childhood issues and all of those horrible things that I did in the past and all of those lives that I feel that I have impacted negatively and that I've ruined. And that comes with a high level of anxiety, never mind insomnia because you're not drinking anymore, and sweats, and oh my God, the sugar cravings that I'm experiencing at the moment are out of control. But I know that now is the time, and I know that I need to do this for not just myself. I need to do it so that I can be a present, coherent mother, so that I can take my children out when they want to go out, so I can do things over the summer holidays with them and not say, oh, Mum's got a migraine today because she drank a bottle of wine last night, and I need to be there to be a supportive partner to my husband as well. I need this. I need sobriety because I need to become the person that I want to be, the person that I was always destined to become. I hate doing this fucking like and subscribe bit at the end, but here we go. If you enjoyed listening to this, watching this video, please like, subscribe. I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and I'm eventually going to get round to putting this out as a podcast, maybe through Spotify or elsewhere. I'll announce that closer to the time though. But thank you for joining me, and I hope that you have found comfort in what I have shared with you today. If you need any help with your own issues with alcohol, I've put a number of links down in the description below. Don't be afraid to start your sobriety journey. And I'll see you next time.